Per diem. What is per diem? How much do you get? When do you get it? Why do you get it? What's the difference between meals and expenses versus lodging? What is the scoop on per diem? Okay, while on government temporary duty, TDY, you will receive per diem when traveling away from home for longer than an ordinary day's work and incur ordinary and necessary travel expenses. Per diem is a non-taxable entitlement you receive while going on business travel for your government agency. It's non-taxable because technically it's a business travel expenses. However, as a result of it being non-taxable, there are a whole lot of stipulations that come with per diem. So there are some fairly strict right and left limits to per diem usage. Okay, what regulations address per diem? Well, let's look at the laws and regulations. The big one is IRS Publication 463, because per diem is non-taxable. And since we're talking about government travel, we're of course talking about the Federal Travel Regulation, the FTR. All government travel is governed by the FTR. However, your agency or department probably has its own regulation that further restricts and clarifies your TDY. For example, the DoD, Department of Defense, uses the JTR, or the Joint Travel Regulation, and the Department of State uses the FAM, which is the Foreign Affairs Manual. I'll dissect those manuals in future videos. Today, I'm going to cover some core concepts that apply to all TDY. Okay, when do you get per diem? There are distance and time requirements for per diem. For distance, it's all about your tax home. For IRS purposes, your tax home is your regular place of business or post of duty, regardless of where you maintain your family home. It includes the entire city or general area in which your business or work is located, so travel has to be out of the general area or city of your tax home. Something very important here. If you move your tax home to the location of your TDY, then you're no longer on TDY, you're at home. So be conscious of where you put your tax home. Now, for time, TDY is only allotted for travel between 1 and 365 days. On the small end, it doesn't necessarily have to be like 24 hours, but it has to be longer than an ordinary day's work. On the long end, it can't be longer than 365. That's it, just 365 days. There is only one IRS exception to the 365-day rule, and that is for federal crime investigations or prosecution exceptions. Okay. This applies to FBI and DOJ and other agencies in order to investigate and prosecute or provide support services for the investigation. However, your agency may have unique exceptions, such as like war fighting or certain contingency operations. Okay, why does the 365-day limit even exist? Because anything over a year really isn't temporary. It's permanent. And the IRS considers that a relocation rather than a travel expense. Okay, how much do you get for per diem? Well, that's all based upon location. Some places are expensive, some places are inexpensive. San Francisco, for example, consistently has one of the highest per diem rates. During the high season, the lodging rate is $335 a day. Contrast that with anywhere in North Dakota, where the daily lodging rate is only $98 a day. Now, the big question that you must absolutely understand, what is the difference between meals and expenses and lodging? Per diem is divided into two categories, meals and expenses and lodging. It's absolutely critical that you know the difference between the two, because one is use or lose and the other is not. So let's start with meals and incidentals. Commonly referred to as M&IE. The government uses the standard meal allowance, meaning there is a set reimbursement amount. Meals and expenses is not use or lose. You don't have to show receipts, you just take the money. You can spend it on anything you want. No receipts needed. The purpose of meals and incidentals is to cover not only your meals, but all those little things like snacks. And if you spend less than the amount your employer gives you, no big deal. You still keep the money. If you spend more on food than the M&IE rate, too bad, they're not giving you more than the established rate. There are certain unique circumstances where you might actually get more than the established rate, but those are very rare, and your employer will definitely let you know in advance. Okay, why is meals and expenses like this? Because it's de minimis. Frankly, it's too small of an amount for the IRS to even be concerned with. That said, your agency might have specific rules that require you to show receipts for M&IE in unique situations. For example, the Army IDT program requires you to show 2 days of M&IE receipts. Okay. Do you get meals and expenses all the time? Pretty much. Check with your agency, but unless they're providing food for you on that day, then you're gonna get M&IE. How much do you receive for M&IE? Go to our website, TDYRentals.com, and check on the resources. We have a very easy tool to use. It's much less confusing than the GSA website. Okay, now let's talk about the lodging portion of per diem. This is where it gets interesting. Why is it interesting? Because there's a lot more money involved, and because it is use or lose. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep into the detailed lodging regulations on this video, but I wanna explain real quick what use or lose is. Okay, TD lodging rate is a maximum reimbursement. You will only be reimbursed for the receipts that you provide, and they will not reimburse you for more than a maximum daily amount. That means they're only going to reimburse you for what you show receipts for. So if you spend more than the per diem lodging daily rate, then you have to pay out of pocket. However, if you spend less than your daily allotment, then you're frankly missing out on money. All right, so let's say, for example, you're staying in DC for 3 months, March, April, and May. The DC lodging rate is $258 a day during that period. So that's about $7,740 a month. Now, if you were to only spend $6,000 a month, you would be reimbursed the entire amount, but you would miss out on $5,220 of entitlement. Lodging gets really complicated because there are different numbers of days each month, and there are seasonal rates. And on top of that, sometimes you might be on a sliding scale, and sometimes your dependents might qualify for TDY reimbursement as well. There are lots of details when it comes to lodging, so I dedicate an entire video to the ins and outs of lodging. By the way, if you want to know the lodging rates, go to our website, TDY Rentals, and look under the Resources tab to find the M&IE rates and the daily lodging rates.